Hello and welcome to the IWGB's fourth podcast, the third one in English. I'm Cathal Sheeran, I'm the press person at the IWGB, and today we'll be updating you on what's been going on at the union, including news regarding the Courier Employment Tribunal claim, some recent elections, a new education scholarship, and even a party. First up, we're going to hear from Andrew Hillier QC. He's a retired barrister. As some of you already know, the IWGB has set up a charity, Independent Worker Legal Services, with the aim of increasing union funding opportunities and thereby improving our legal assistance to members. Andrew has agreed to become a trustee. I asked him to tell us about his background, but first of all, to explain to us exactly what it is that a trustee does.
Well, the role varies very much according to the sort of organisation and how young the organisation is. In the case of this charity that we're setting up, it also depends upon the trustees' own particular specialities, but as I'm a lawyer and I've got quite a bit of experience of other relatively small trusts, it entails making sure there are proper governance procedures in place to ensure that decisions are properly taken, that they comply with the overall objectives of the organisation, and ensuring that everybody's moving in the right direction. The important thing about being a trustee is that it's a question of oversight.
You said you've been involved in trust before. Can you give us a brief history of your background professionally and also your involvement with charitable organisations?
Yeah. I was a practicing barrister for 40 years, specialising in employment law. I really began just as employment law was beginning with the passing of the Industrial Relations Act in 1971, and was in 11 KBW chambers, which are we would say the principal employment chambers in the Temple. I then retired, but I wanted to keep my hand in the context of voluntary legal advice. So I've been on a trustee of the Bar Pro Bono unit for many years, which provides barristers free of charge in deserving cases.
You've been involved in any union-related activity or any union cases?
When I was at the bar, I did a lot of union work to start with. I used to do a lot of work for what was called COSI, which is now part of Unison, so Confederation of Health Service Employees. The chambers I was in then did masses of work for them. I was involved in long hospital inquiries, one which spanned a year, sat for 150 days. But I did a lot of ordinary, we did quite a lot of personal injury stuff for them, but also on the employment side I did a lot of work for the National Union of Teachers for a time. I like to think I was sort of one of their main counsels for a while. We had some big cases. Then it's a fickle world, the barristers' world, for one reason or another. Solicitors move on. I think I did less union work. I always wanted to keep doing the union work, but you take what comes, and 11 KBW in a way did less. I did some transport and general work.
And is there any particular triumph in terms of your union casework that stands out or that you want to talk about?
Well, I think two triumphs, one for, one against. I had an important case for the NUT, which we won in the House of Lords. It sounds a pretty boring issue. It was a very important issue to do with continuity of employment for teachers in further education who were never had a contract during the holidays. So each term they had a new contract, but we had lots of teachers who would do this year in, year out. And we managed to establish that the period during the holiday could count towards their continuity of employment even though they had no contract. And we'd lost that case in every tribunal, EAT, Court of Appeal we'd lost, House of Lords seemed to be very against us, and then we won the case 5-0 when the decision came out. So that was great.
So what brought you then to the IWGB, and what do you think that you can give it specially?
Well, I met Jason through an excellent trust called Trust for London. And I'd done a lot of work through South West London for low paid, exactly this category of English second language, in catering, care workers, and those sort of occupations where there's a huge abuse, just not paying people just their basic wage. I mean, just knowing that it's going to be too hard for them to take proceedings. They won't know how to take proceedings in a tribunal, and just then saying, okay, well, we may owe you 1,000, but we'll give you 750, and take it or leave it. I mean, the abuse there and the lack of any assistance now because of government withdrawal of funding makes something like the IWG absolutely vital. I mean, far more so than in the past.
Lack of union recognition by employers can sometimes be an obstacle for a union, and it's something that the IWGB has faced at the University of London. The Information and Consultation of Employees Regulations, or ICE for short, are a mechanism that helped get round that, making sure that employers listen to all voices in the workplace. The IWGB has recently seen another one of its members elected to the University of London ICE Forum. Catherine Morrissey, Secretary of the University of London branch of the union, told me about it.
We had some elections in March for Information and Consultation of Employees negotiating representatives, and IWGB won 2 of those positions on the out of a possible 5. Unfortunately, one of our reps then had a change of job, so left the university, which meant that position was then open on the negotiating panel. So we had another election to replace that rep, which was Chris, and we put forward another IWGB candidate, Mark Murphy, who was very enthusiastic, very passionate about taking part. So there was another election just a couple of weeks ago, and again Mark was up against a candidate from Unison, which is one of the biggest unions in the country, who have a lot of resources and were able to put a lot of resources into that, but nonetheless won by a really significant margin, which we feel really shows that people are still engaged and people are still excited by the opportunity of having IWGB shape the future of consultation at the university and engage in this debate.
And so the way the voting broke down, was that a reflection of how union membership is split across the University of London? I'm saying this because, as I understand it, the majority of union members here belong to the IWGB. Is that right?
Yeah, we're the largest union on campus, but our membership includes outsourced workers as well, which the other 2 unions don't really. I think Unison has a very small handful, perhaps about 5 members from the outsourced workers. It's definitely not just a pure reflection of kind of the numbers in our union and the numbers in Unison. It's clear that non-unionised staff are participating in these elections as well. So that was a very pleasing result for us to see that we still have got support from other members of staff who aren't even unionised.
More election news. The Courier and Logistics branch of the union will be holding elections to fill the post of branch secretary. I spoke to John Katona, Vice President of the IWGB, about it. So there are elections coming up to elect a secretary of the Couriers branch. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, the position of secretary for the Couriers branch is up for grabs, and this is the first time that a number of members from the branch have stepped up and want to do the job. It's a very involved job, involves a lot of work, but it's also very rewarding, so it's good to see that so many people are now motivated to participate in such a weighty role.
Because of the status of the role, there are certain rules and regulations governing the election of the branch secretary. Can you explain to us a little bit about what's going on there? Because
the role is not just a branch position but a union-wide position, so the secretary and chair of each branch sit on the National Executive Committee of the union. There is a law which says positions of that nature, if contested, are determined by postal ballot, and postal ballot can be costly, and that cost needs to be incurred by the union, but that's the price of democracy. How many people have put themselves forward to be as nominees? Four candidates so far. all of whom I think would do a great job and would bring different skills to the position. So it's a win-win situation, really. It's just also exciting to see who wins.
And do you, what do you think is the kind of driving force behind this kind of interest in putting themselves forward for this role?
The branch, in its short and young history, has accomplished a lot of things and has established itself amongst a community which had never been unionized before as an active, productive, and force to be reckoned with amongst courier companies and the courier community. Therefore, I think people are realizing the benefits of having a union and are motivated to get involved, because what the union does is really affecting everyone positively, whether you're a member or not. And members with the inside view of how this actually works are becoming more and more motivated to get involved and do some work, which is a big responsibility, but it's also very rewarding. So I think people are now stepping up to the plate with vigor because of what's already been accomplished.
And what date is in place for the election?
The election has no fixed date as of yet, but the arrangements are being made currently, and the address details of our members are being checked so that we know that postal ballots are going to the right places. And once the correct date is assumed or is arranged, the postal ballot shouldn't take more than a month longer to process.
One of the benefits the IWGB offers its members is free English classes. A recent development in this area has been the setting up of the Sadiq Scholarship. Sam Dolbear, Education Officer for the University of London branch, told me the story behind it. Okay, so the union has set up something called the Sadiq Scholarship. Can you tell us what that's about?
It's a scholarship funded by a guy who read an article in the FT about the union a few months ago, and he wanted to donate some money to get one of the members through an education program. And we decided to widen it out and to get more people involved rather than just one person. And now there's 4 people, all reps in each of the workplaces, going through a 10-week intensive education English scheme.
So, I mean, the Financial Times, or readers of Financial Times, you wouldn't normally associate them with being union sympathisers. What more do you know about this man?
He's an investment banker at one of the big banks in Canary Wharf. I think it's more to do with a sort of aspirational element. So he wants to put people through a program that'll they can get on their CVs and they can move on from these jobs if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm. And generally, maybe a little bit more than half of the union membership speak English as a second language, and some of them aren't very comfortable with English at all. How important is it for them to master English?
Yeah, well, it's obviously important in terms of their lives in London, but also interacting with supervisors and colleagues and students, and feeling confident with that, feeling confident to stand up for yourself with a language you feel comfortable in. I think it's also important though, because for many members who came from professional backgrounds and ended up in cleaning for whatever reason or whatever job. So it's a way also to get back into those jobs or to get onto an access course at university and start an undergrad.
Do you think that this might be the beginning of a new phase in the union's ability to help its members? Do you think there could be more benefactors in the wings at some point?
Yeah, it's definitely a good way to go forward, because also the union should be paying its own employees properly as well. So it's great to be able to pay English teachers who are qualified and experienced to do this work. And our aim is to, if this Sadiq Scholarship is successful, to expand it so we could put someone through a year's course and try and, in order to go on to a university access course at Birkbeck or wherever.
further courier news. Cycle couriers in the UK are classified as independent contractors, an employment status which allows companies to deprive them of basic employment rights, such as minimum wage, paid holiday, and other basic rights. In March this year, the IWGB made a claim to the Employment Tribunal, challenging this independent contractor status. If successful, it would revolutionise the employment status of cycle couriers, making them eligible for these basic rights. The claim has been brought against 4 of the UK's largest courier businesses. A preliminary meeting in this case recently took place. Andrew Boxer, one of the claimants, and an IWGB rep told me about it.
Well, we've had a preliminary hearing. Now, the first thing, the reason for that is to establish the dates, the order of the hearings, and one of the important things we've achieved is to get a single judge listening to each case. So that means she will hear everybody's case and will not only learn from about the industry and the way it works, but she'll be able to make general conclusions which will probably count in our favour when assuming they see our point of view. The basic argument is between worker status and an independent subcontractor. An independent subcontractor has absolutely no rights, but you would expect if you were independent to set your own fees, which we don't. You would also expect if you're independent to be able to give your work to somebody else to do. If you had some other job to do, you could give it to a friend of yours. You can't do that. You would also expect to be able to work as and when you want to. You can to a degree, but when you are working for the company, you're unquestionably working for the company. You can't go off and do something else and then come back and finish the job. You do each job as it comes.
So all couriers are classified as independent workers?
They are, but it's bogus.
Yeah, because they have all the responsibilities of being their own boss,
yes.
but
none of the advantages.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Plus, we're responsible for our equipment. Some couriers rent it. Some people pay a nominal sum for insurance, which is really a form of rent. And also, if you do have a breakage, in spite of the fact you've paid insurance, you still pay for the breakage.
Yeah.
So that's happened a few times with me. There are other things as well. Obviously, we have our expenses. The cost of running a bike is at least £20 a week, and you get no help towards that at all. Brake blocks, tyres, all those things, they're all expensive. So we're not paid fairly for the work, and as I say, an independent subcontractor would charge more because, if I had the freedom to charge, I would include those costs.
Yeah.
And that's only reasonable. And that would earn me little more than a living wage. It wouldn't earn me even the London living wage necessarily. But we're not entitled to a living wage under that contract. So if we are hanging around all day doing nothing, we make no money.
So I understand that there has been a development in terms of legal assistance. There's some new pro bono legal assistance. A solicitor's firm is working with us.
Yes,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
When did they start?
I'm not sure. I mean, they were there for the tribunal, and I know Jason was discussing it, the case with them a good few weeks beforehand. We got crowdfunding as well, which I think has been very useful, and everyone's very grateful for that, I think. And our QC, our barrister, was brilliant. He argued the case very cleverly for us.
So what are the next steps in this process?
We've got 4 separate tribunals. There'll be a 5-week period between each one. The first one is going to be City's Print, and Maggie will be before the court. with the city sprint, the respondent. And that will be just before Christmas, I believe. Either end of November, beginning of December, I'm not sure of the exact dates, but from January onwards, just about every month, up until June, we will have a further company and a further claimant.
So exciting times coming up. Do you think? Do you feel optimistic? Do you think that you'll win this or will win this?
Very. I don't think the companies have got a leg to stand on.
Continuing with our courier news, the IWGB continues to demand fair pay for its members and is calling on the courier firm Mach to pay the London living wage to its riders. Union member and Mach rider Joe Ryan Lee told me about what was going on and of the potential for union action.
So the unionised members of Mach asked the IWGB, the union, to try to get Mach to pay us more and improve some of the conditions. So they've given them an ultimatum to do that, basically, and they've framed it using the London living wage plus costs, and so it equals out to around about £11 something an hour equivalent.
And these demands made to Mach have they responded to the demands yet?
No, they haven't, not yet. Not overtly or directly. They've definitely received the message, and we know that they're kind of talking to their lawyers or solicitors about it.
And what will receiving the London living wage mean for you on a kind of a daily basis compared to how you are now?
Well, I imagine how it's going to work is they're going to ensure that at the end of the week we're getting paid the equivalent of the London living wage plus costs. So I don't think it's going to move to a situation where we're getting paid an hourly rate. Mm-hmm. It's probably still going to be based on how many jobs you do, and which is how we want it anyway.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense for them as well. But it will make a huge amount of difference to all of us because we work incredibly hard for not enough money to live on, basically. So it will just mean that we can actually pay our rent on time, and we can maybe even save money for whatever we're saving for.
And are you optimistic about getting the London living wage out of Mach 1? I mean, I know that union action in the past has been quite successful. Do you think it's going to work here?
Yeah, well, the union's done 2 campaigns with other companies that are slightly bigger than ours, actually, e-Courier and City Sprint, and been really successful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm pretty confident because Mach 1 is it's a smaller company in terms of the number of push bike riders that it employs, but it's got a huge client base of really wealthy clients. Mm-hmm. And it's notorious as one of the kind of the least well-paying courier companies, so they can definitely afford to do it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I suppose, the kind of how hard-nosed the management is the obstacle. But I am confident. Yeah, I'm confident we can definitely effect a change.
And an update for you on that story. Since that interview was recorded, the Couriers and Logistics branch of the IWGB has launched a campaign against Mach 1 for the London living wage plus costs. IWGB members at the Royal College of Music have been considering a strike action. Wilson Ayala Romero, the union rep at the Royal College of Music, told me about this, but also, on a lighter note, about a party and a raffle he and his colleagues are organising to raise funds for the union.
Pues básicamente nuestro reclamo y nuestra preocupación ha sido básicamente por los constantes.
Basically, our complaint is the same as always. We're still having the same problems with our employer, the same abuse, harassment and lack of respect. It's actually causing health problems for some of our members. Thanks to union support, we've been able to halt some abuses. But they don't respect the conditions of our contracts or our rights. Regarding the strike, we haven't given them a deadline yet.
All this is happening in a new context. There's been a change of employer. Can you tell us a bit about that?
On the 3rd of June, we were told by our bosses that we are now working for another company called Kingdom, and that our now previous employer, Ocean Cleaning Services, has disappeared. They told us that we had in fact been working for the new company since the 1st of June. This was completely unexpected. We'd had no meeting beforehand. So our strike action is now pending. We want to give the new company the time to learn a bit about our problems and for us to learn a bit about their policies. We want to give them the opportunity for dialogue. Our aim is not to cause problems but to resolve them. If Kingdom respects the contracts we had with Ocean and our conditions of work, we won't have the need to call a strike.
Do you know anything about how the transfer of employees from Ocean to Kingdom took place?
No, but I understand that when this type of transfer takes place, there is usually a process. This has certainly taken place on other occasions. We haven't been given any information at all. We just want everything to be clear from the start. Problems don't help workers or the company. They have to understand that we have rights as workers and that they have to respect them.
So some good news is that you're organising a party and a raffle. Can you tell us about that?
It's important that after a hard day's work we give ourselves the opportunity to enjoy ourselves a little and have a chance to get to know each other better and exchange ideas. It's a chance to relax but also develop the union. The IWGB is financed by member contributions, but that's not sufficient to meet all its costs. So we, 5 colleagues and I, are organising a raffle. We owe the union a lot and this is a way to give something back. We actually organised another raffle in April. This one will be the second.
There's quite a big prize.
The prize is a trip for 2 people to Paris, 3 days and 2 nights, with flights and accommodation paid. We're organising it now and we hope that our colleagues will help out because it's for the union's benefit. Ultimately, we'd like to collect enough money to be able to contract more people to help us with our casework. For more information, members can talk to their union reps or call the office.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you'd like more information about the union, please visit our website at www.iwgb.org.uk or email us at office@iwgb.org.uk. Let us know what you'd like to hear more about and we'll try to include it in our next programme. Bye-bye.